This is Darkly. Um, Today we're gonna be starting the first episode of how to create a Politics and More Discord bot. Now, as you can see here, this is a fresh install Windows. I've added a few programs, mainly the essentials of what any gamer needs. But everything that I am going to install and show you how to install is going to be the bare essentials of what we're going to need. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we need to get a IDE, which is a integrated development environment. And what that is basically is that it's think of it like a text editor, but it helps you program more efficiently by telling you that if your code's containing bugs or you misspelled something, it will scream at you and let you know. So we're going to open up our Opera GX browser here. I'm not sponsored, by the way, but Opera GX is looking at this and they want to give me some money. I'm always free to do a sponsorship. But with that said, we're just going to go type in Visual Studio Code. And we're going to go to this website right here, code.visualstudio.com. And then we're just going to click download for Windows. And it's going to ask me if we want to save this. Save. I'll go in my downloads folder. See over here that it's downloading. While that's downloading, we'll go ahead and get our next item. Now, this one is optional, but I highly recommend that you get this, and it is GitHub Desktop. Now, what GitHub Desktop is that it's basically GitHub, which I'll explain later in this episode. But it essentially allows you to use GitHub on your computer, so that you don't have to do version control on your web browser. And as we get further along, we'll get more introduced into GitHub, and specifically GitHub Desktop and the benefits of it. But for now, we're just going to download that. And then the last thing we're going to need is Node.js. Now, Node.js is basically what we're going to run our bot on. It's going to be the main language we use because it uses JavaScript. And this will just allow us to run pretty much backend code. We're going to download that as well. As you can see, everything we need is downloaded. So we'll first go ahead and install Visual Studio Code. You agree to the license agreement, give Microsoft your soul. You click in next. And then you want to make sure that these two are clicked. They should be automatically, but if not, make sure they're clicked, especially this one right here. All right. So click next, install. Gonna install, take a minute.
A few moments later.
There we go. Of course, we'll just go ahead and launch it real quick. Then as you can see, we have Visual Studio set up. You can choose whichever theme you want. Ignore all this. We're just gonna go dark monitor, click next, and now we have Visual Studio Code set up. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna install Node.js. Gonna go through its install screen, create a license, make sure it's set to this. You can click in next. You click it next, go to install, and it'll go install Node.js. It'll ask for permissions to do things, which will just say yes to. That's just because it's trying to access the program files folder, which I believe requires permission. And then now that's set up, we'll click finish. And then we'll go ahead and GitHub Desktop.
One eternity later.
Hard drive's pretty slow. I will come back to it whenever it wants to work. Ah, and there it is. Okay. Oh. Big error. Probably because I have two tabs yet. So once you get to this pop-up, it's going to ask you to sign your GitHub. If you do not have a GitHub account, I would go and create one. We'll go ahead and click here. And it will take us to this page right here. I'm going to go ahead and skip this part because I'm not giving out my credentials, so we'll get back to when I log in.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
And then back here, if you had set up your account and link it to your GitHub desktop, should get to a screen like this. And your name doesn't matter, but you specifically want to make sure your email's set to whatever your personal email is. This is all going to be blurred out, but make sure it's the correct email, and then you'll click finish. And then just like that, you have your GitHub account linked to your GitHub desktop. So but now that we have everything installed, right? Go ahead and close out all this, because I like to keep things neat and tidy. The first thing we're gonna do, all right, is in GitHub desktop, we're gonna go to repository, file, new repository, all right, and we're gonna name it. You can name this whatever you want, but for the sake of this series, we're just gonna name it. All right, and then you can ignore all of this. You can just click create repository, and just like that, you created your first repository. Congratulations, you now use GitHub. Now this is not public yet. This is still just stored locally on your GitHub, but I will show you how to publish that repository and get that towards on your GitHub account, and you can access it on different computers. Other people can access it if you wanted to, or if you want to keep it private, whatnot. But now that we are in our repository, it automatically set you here. You can see we're going to go to repository, go all the way down here, and we're going to click open in Visual Studio Code. And once you click that, you'll see this pop up, and it's asking you if you want to trust the author of the folder. And yeah, we're gonna click this, saying everything under the GitHub folder is trusted. Then we're gonna say yes, I trust the author. Once you do that, let's download Git. We don't need that right now. But now we are inside our repository folder. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna right click new file, and we're gonna make a file called .gitignore. And this is a very important file, because what this .gitignore does is that it uses you telling GitHub, hey, these files or these folders, I don't want them uploaded into my repository. There's a reason you want to do this. But for now, we're going to have .env as our only file. Actually, we'll add another one. Will be node modules. Node modules is all the packages that we'll be downloading, and we obviously don't want to upload to that GitHub, because that can add up to like hundreds to like 500 megabytes depending on the complexity and size of your project. This one should not be that much, but if you ever make like a very complex bot or anything using Node.js, it could add up quickly. And then .env is essentially an environment variable file, and we use that to store data we do not want other people, because, and I'll explain this later once we get to a certain part, but this is where we're starting at. All right, the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and download some packages. Now, you go back to your Visual Studio Code, you press Control and the little tilde key, or the little key under your escape button. You click those two, you'll have this console right? And this is basically a PowerShell console. It allows you to do different commands. We want to type one called npm. Cannot be loaded. Okay. The reason it's saying this is because we're on PowerShell. PowerShell can't run scripts. So we'll click this little drop down here, and we'll go to command prompt. We can get rid of that. Now if we try npm, you should see all this stuff. That means we have Node.js and npm installed. Now npm is basically a short term for Node Package Manager. It's a program we use to download Node packages and dependencies for our program, right? So with that said, the first thing we want to do is we want to run a command called npm, and then space, and then init or init, press enter. And all this is going to do is that it's going to create a JSON. It asks us a bunch of things like what's the name of the package? We'll press enter. What's the version? We'll just say, let's leave it 1.1. We'll just leave it. Encryption, we don't need that. We don't need that. Keep pressing enter. Now, if you were working like a Node package and you want to upload it to like npm website, you would need to fill this out. But for Discord bot, we don't need it because we just need the package.json itself. And I will explain the importance of this in just a minute, and you will see for yourself. But for now, let's go to whatever your web browser is. We're going to type in we're going to go to a website called Sapphire.js. And got it here, sapphirejs.dev. Go to that website. And you'll see this install right here, but we're going to ignore it for now. We want to specifically go to guide. And we'll go to the getting started page right here. And this is what you'll actually want to copy. Because not only will it copy the Sapphire framework package, but it'll also install Discord.js, which is an API wrapper for Discord's API. So we'll click the little button right here. This will copy it. All right. We'll go back to our Visual Studio Code. We'll press the Control key. You can type in CLS to clear this out, and it'll clear out your console just like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to right click, it'll automatically paste this in here. Then what you'll do is you'll press, and this is just going to install these few packages right here. It might take a minute depending on the speed of your internet. And you'll see right here we have a folder called Node Module. And if you remember from a few minutes ago, that we specifically added this module. If I click this, you'll see all the different packages that we downloaded, so Discord.js and Sapphire, and then all these different packages that they depend on. This get ignored. We'll make sure that this node_modules folder never gets uploaded to our GitHub. But as you can see, install their packages, we have no vulnerabilities, so that's great. So what do we do from here? All right, so we can go back to this website. This is a simple guide to set up a basic Discord bot. All right, so we'll scroll down. Ignore all this, is just a bunch of jargon if you're trying to upgrade or whatever. You want to go down here. So right here is 4 simple lines of code. We'll go ahead and copy and paste it. Click here, copy it. We'll go back to here. And you're probably thinking, well, where do I paste this? That's a good question. So what we can do is we can right click over here where my mouse is. We'll go to new folder. We'll call it src. Press enter. And this is basically our source folder. This is where we're going to store the main bulk of our program, right? So click this, and then we'll click on this folder, right? With it highlighted. We'll right click it, do a new file, and then we'll call it index.js. And this is going to be our main file, where every time we run our bot or start it up, this is going to be the first file that it runs on, right? So what you can do here is you can right click, go to paste, or you can do Control and V, and you can paste that code in here. Now, what this code does, right, is it does 4 things. It will call on the Sapphire framework package that we just installed earlier, right? And it'll grab this specific piece of code, which is the client or the bot itself. And then we have gateway intent bits from the discord.js package. Now, with gateway intent bit, it is basically a Discord's way of saying, hey, what permissions does your bot require? And with these two, we're saying, hey, my bot requires permissions to see kills. Most do, and it's generally needed. This one is asking for messages that are sent in your guild. Now, depending on whether you need to see those contents of the messages, let's say you want to build a moderation bot. Generally, it's a good idea to have something like this because you want to make sure your bot is filtering out messages that contain words that you don't want sent in your server or certain profanities. But in our case, we don't really need it, so we're going to get rid of it. So now we're pretty much almost there. We have the code set up, but you can see right here, in this line of code, it says client.login. And this is the line of code that is going to log our bot into Discord. And it's going to get our bot set up. As you can see, it says your token goes here. But the question is, what is our token? Right? So, and you also can ask, well, how do you get a token? And that's a good question. So what we can do is we can go to discord.com develop. And it'll ask me to log in because I'm not logged in on the web browser. So give me a minute to log in and I will be right back.
A few moments later.
Alright, so now that I'm logged in, alright, discord.com/developer/application. You can just do discord.com/developers and it'll take you regardless. This is the developer, interface for when you're creating applications that use Discord's API. So when you get to this part, you'll see I have a few bots here, 4 specifically, but if you get to yours, you'll see that there's nothing there. And that's most likely the case, as most of you probably never developed a Discord bot before. So let's go ahead and change that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to this button right here that says new application. So we'll click on that. It'll ask us for the name of our application. You can name whatever you want. It's your bot, you name whatever you want. But for this case, for the purpose of the series, I'm going to name it test. You'll need to agree to the developer terms of service and developer policy, as always, and you'll click OK. You'll then be taken to your bot page, and you'll see a lot of menu stuff, and you might freak out. Don't worry, it's all chill. So, change the name of your bot here. You can also change the profile picture of your bot, because your bot by default will have, just the Discord profile picture. We'll keep it like that, but just click this and then add whatever image you want to your bot and it will change that. It might take a few minutes, but it shouldn't take that. What we specifically want is to go to this section here that says bot. We'll click on that, and as you can see, Discord icon. You want to change that over here, and this is the banner. This is something new. And then you can see our bot username, and you're probably thinking, I thought you named it test. And you're right, I did. But Discord does have a limit on how many, bots can have the same name. And since a lot of people have a test bot, it probably went over that limit and it gave me this random user, which that's fine. What we want to do now is we want to scroll down here and we want to click on these two. These, we don't need this one, but we want to click on these three. And the reason we want this one is we want to have presence updates, and this will basically allow us to update the status of our bot and have cool little messages that you can see if you look at the bot. It's pretty cool, and we're going to enable it. This one right here, this is very This is if you want to access like guild members. So like, if you want to get a guild member's data that is public in Discord, you'll need this setup. And this one's for message content. This one we don't really need, since we're not going to really deal with messages and stuff like that. But we'll just go ahead and nail it for simplicity's sake. Once you click on those three, you're going to click on Save Changes. And that's going to save those changes. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to get our token. Go down here, you'll see our token. However, it's blocked by this button that says Reset Token. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Reset Token. We're going to click Yes, do it. You're going to ask for this 2FA thing, two-factor authentication. Yours may not have it, but mine does. So I will be right back after he gets it done.
One eternity later.
All right. So after putting in my authentication credentials, you can see we have a new token here. It is very important that you do not share this token with anyone, because this string right here looks like this for me, but yours will always be different, and it should always be different. But you don't want to share this with anyone, because if anyone were to get access to your token, then they basically have the ability to log into your bot and do whatever they want with it with their own code. So you'll see mine here, and you'll see it's uncensored, but by next episode, it will be completely different. So don't bother trying to do anything. So with that said, we're going to copy it right here. And then we're going to go to our Visual Studio Code. All right. And inside of this, we're going to go into our source folder, right click it, new file. Then we're going to do .env. And inside this env, we're going to make a variable called Discord. There we go. Discord _bot _ token. Put an equal sign there, and then we're going to control V our token. Now, if you go back to our get ignored, you'll also see we put our .env in there, right? And the reason we want to do that is we don't want our .env to get uploaded to GitHub, especially if it's public, because then people will see our bot token, and then they can go, oh, well, I have their bot token. I'm going to go abuse their bot now. And the reason we have this .env file is we obviously don't want to put our Discord token in here. That's a huge safety risk, especially if we decide to make our code public, because then anyone can go grab our bot token and abuse it. Now that we have our env set up, right? I'm going to exit out of it. And essentially, we're going to install another package. Go back to our web. Exit out of that. And we'll go to .dot, then env. And we'll go to this website right here. And this is a package. And what that does is that it allows us to access our .env file to grab the data we need. So right here, you can see the install command, right? So we'll click this, see it copy to our clip, go back to our package, right click it, and then we'll click enter. And as you can see, installed, no vulnerabilities, that's great. We'll do CLS, cleans that up. And then we can do and then look at the documentation down here. You can see right here, this is what he wants to do. So actually get rid of the columns, and we can just do require in parentheses, and then inside your single quotation .env, and you'll see it's there. And then we'll do .big, and parentheses right here, semicolon right there, and that's just basically going to set up .env for us. So now, what we can do is we can get rid of this, and we should just have find.login in our parentheses. All right. So what we'll do is we'll press our tilde key, or the key. Actually, no, we won't do it. But what we'll do is we'll type in process dot env. Now we're accessing the env, accessing our file. Then we'll do dot, and whatever our env file has, so discord underscore bot.token. I'm going to double click that, Control C, then you can right click, copy. We're going to take that, and then after this dot, we're going to paste it right here, right? And then that's everything we need to set up our bot. Now, before we run it, it's obvious we need to go and we need to add a bot to our server. Because right now our bot's on any server, right? So we can go back to our Discord developer portal, go to our test bot, right? And what we can do is we can go to installation, right? We can give it the user install. We don't need that because our bot is a build bot. All right, you'll see this link right here. And we want to set up default setting, right? So we have application commands that's needed. We also want to add bot. Now, once you add the bot, you'll see a new tab, and this is called permissions. This is basically a bunch of different permissions that you would see in the server, right? Depending on what your bot needs to do, you would need different permissions. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to go ahead and give it administrator permission. Now, I do not recommend doing this for when you're making your actual bot, because obviously you don't want to give a bot administration permissions, because if it were to get hacked or anything like that, then that bot will have a lot of servers that has admin perms then, and that can lead to abuse. But for this case, it's just our test bot. We're just going to be messing around in our own server. We'll go ahead and give it administration permission. Once you've done that, you'll click on Save Changes, and then this link should update. No, it shouldn't. So you'll have this link right here. We'll click on Copy, open a new tab, and then paste it in there. And then you'll see my Discord pop up, and you'll see, hey, yada yada yada. Wants to add access to your Discord, so it'll say yeah, and then you'll see your server. Mine's already set to test server I set up, but if you don't see it, you'll click on this thing right here, go to your drop down, pick whatever server you want to, and then we'll click continue. And then it'll show you what permissions it's asking for, and you can decide here what permission you want to give it. Obviously, it's asking for administrator, like we said. And we're going to go ahead and give it those permissions. So we'll click authorize. Might get a captcha. I guess I will. So we'll click I am human. And then should see. Yeah, you should see our bot right here. Bot 1317 bunch of yada yada yada, right? So now our bot's in our server. As you can see, it's not online. Let's fix that. Let's go back to our Node.js. Alright. We're inside our folder. What we want to do now is we want to go into our Solrs folder. So we'll do cd. You'll see we're in the test folder, which is where we're at right now. But we'll do cd and then space src. And you can see that we're now in the source folder. So we can clear that. And now what we want to do is we want to type in node space and then the name of our main file, which is index.js. So we'll do node index.js, press enter, give it a second, and you can see our bot is online. So we go back to our Discord, you'll see, hey, our bot's online now. It doesn't do anything because we don't have code for it to do anything. Let's just log on. But that is your first step to setting up a bot. Now, that's all we're going to be doing today for this episode. I know it's not much, but it's a lot of setup. But in the next episode, we'll go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty and go ahead and start doing some actual coding and getting some commands set up. So with that said, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.